Hello, Jeff Boggs here. This is the Week 8 mini lecture on Peterborough. This week we will talk about Peterborough's limited highway access and what this means more broadly for Peterborough, as well as for you as someone getting or heading to Peterborough. The city of Peterborough and the county of Peterborough share the distinction of being, at least in the case of the city, the largest Ontario city that is not connected directly to a 400 series highway. Looking at this map, we see in sort of crude yellow lines the location of 400 level highways in the province of Ontario, or at least in southern Ontario. 400 level highways have at least 4 lanes, 2 going in each direction, and they are limited access, which means that people can only get on every few kilometers, or in some cases every 20 or 30 or 40 kilometers, depending on the location. And the benefit of this for drivers is that it means that you don't have to stop and start or speed up and slow down rapidly. It means that you can travel at a high rate of speed for a long distance. And then to exit 400 level highways, there are off ramps, and to get onto 400 level highways, there are on ramps. You might imagine that the benefit of being near a 400 level highway is that it means that your city or your location is relatively more easily accessible than locations that are further from this 400 level highway. So if we look at the city of Peterborough, which is sort of where that red circle is, it is the largest Ontario city that is not on a 400 series highway. This then makes Peterborough relatively less accessible. So if we think in terms of graph theory, which we talked about last week in the main lecture, this means that Peterborough is a node with low centrality. So it's not connected to a lot of other places. Whereas locations along 400 series highways have, all other things being equal, probably higher measures of centrality, or they are more accessible. The benefit of being on a 400 series highway is that this then is integrated into a larger series of highways in the United States and also in Mexico that are designed for relatively quick traffic. And this has implications for things like commuting, because if you are a community located near a 400 series highway, you're actually, relatively speaking, in terms of time, closer to other places along that highway, at least compared to places that are further from that highway. And so in the Niagara region, this is one reason that Grimsby is such a popular spot for people to locate in. But you'll also notice that if you look at maps anywhere in Ontario, what you tend to see along 400 series highways are areas of high population density, or at least relatively higher than you might find in areas off of that 400 series highway. This also then has implications for Peterborough in terms of its ability to attract some kinds of business investment. So all other things being equal, somebody wanting to set up a factory is more likely to set it up in a place that's more accessible than a place that's less accessible if everything else is equal. And so Peterborough has the I don't know if you'd say it's fortunate or unfortunate position. I think it depends actually on your point of view of being off of the beaten path, as it were. And so this makes it less likely to be chosen as a site of investment by various businesses. If we go back 100 years, Peterborough was relatively more centrally located than it is now. But that also is because Peterborough was at the juncture of a couple of different rail lines, and the canal system 100 years ago, so in 1920, carried carried commercial traffic, right? And at that time, Peterborough also had factories that, at least historically, had operated using water power to help power machines or generators. That is sort of what I want to close with for today. I guess two ways that this information might be useful for you is that if you are looking while you conduct your research for the field course, if you are examining, if your research question has to do with investment in Peterborough or commuting in Peterborough or the surrounding area, or even house prices in the surrounding area, it's possible that Peterborough's relative isolation compared to maybe places like Oshawa, which are on a 400 series highway, and are also a little bit closer to Toronto, it might well be that this concern with accessibility is important in shaping what you're observing in Peterborough. But I don't want to belabor the point, and I will end it here.